The NBA is under 20 days from getting underway, and heading into the regular season, we're going to take a look at some of the top trade candidates. Now, this is not me saying they're going to get traded before the season begins on October 21st. It is me saying these are 5 players that you should be looking to potentially see get traded between now and the trade deadline in early February. The season does begin on the 21st. We'll see the NBA champions, Oklahoma City Thunder, start the season by hosting the Houston Rockets. And if you're excited about the NBA getting back, like that video. Come on, show my bosses that the people are excited for some NBA basketball returning. Hit that thumbs up icon. So the first trade candidate that I want people to keep an eye on is the guard in Atlanta, that being Trae Young. Why am I going to throw out Trae Young? Well, it's because there is no extension for Trae right now. Now, he talked about this at his media day presser, and he's dropped some quotes throughout the offseason as well, and he hoped to get an extension. But he also said, listen, they have to do what's best for them. We're going to have to see what's best for us. So right now, it's a little bit of a murky situation with Trae Young in Atlanta. That's an improved team in Atlanta that expects to be competing for a legit playoff spot in the top 5, not in the play-in. And if they ultimately don't get to that goal, well, then you could absolutely see some changes in Atlanta. This is one of the best offensive engines in all of basketball. But the question does remain, is he a player that is capable of performing and winning at the highest level? I don't know. But I'll make this point once again. If the season goes south in Atlanta, Trae Young could absolutely be on the move. And they could ultimately start building around Jalen Johnson, Zachary Reese-Shea, Dyson Daniels. Yes, they made massive improvements, bringing in Nickeil Alexander-Walker, bringing in, who was the other guard they brought in, Coop? No, Coop's good for nothing. Thanks, Coop. You want one thing for help, and Coop can't bring it to you. They brought in Nickeil Alexander-Walker and another free agent. It's spacing my name. He's a shooter. But either way, they made improvements to this roster to help their depth. If they're unable to reach their goal of being a top 5 team in the Eastern Conference, well, they're going to really struggle. What was that? Luke Kennard. That's who it was. Thank you, Coop. Good for something. If they don't get that point, well, then maybe they ultimately trade Trae Young. Another player that's intriguing to keep an eye on is James Harden, the Los Angeles Clippers guard. Why is Harden on this list? And this is something that may be a little bit polarizing of a take to say, and I do want to admit it's incredibly unlikely, but stay with me here. This Kawhi Leonard situation in Los Angeles still is not blown over. If the NBA ultimately comes with a hammer on on the Clippers and Kawhi, and Kawhi's off the Clippers, Ballmer has to get fined and suspended, however you want to do it, like, why would James Harden stay in LA? Like, he said it at his press conference just this past week. He has done everything that you could fathom as an individual in the NBA in terms of scoring, MVP, All-NBA. The one thing that he has not done is win a title, and that's all that matters to him now. Now, the question is, do you believe that from James Harden? But the point is, if the Clippers don't have Kawhi, they struggle. Why would they not think about trading Harden? And if you're Harden, why wouldn't you think about requesting a trade out of the Clippers? Harden is still playing at a very high level. Yeah, he has his deficiencies in the NBA playoffs, but one of the best offensive creators and as gravitational pulls in the entire NBA offensively. So let me know your thoughts. Could James Harden be traded this year? Pin comment on today's show. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, the reason why I also think he could be traded is that Harden is essentially just re-signing one-year deals every single season. Now, they're not technically one-year deals. They are 1+1s, but it's always a player option in that second season. So if Harden just ultimately wants to leave and go somewhere else in free agency, he could, which is giving the Clippers a little bit of hesitation because, once again, if they stink, if Kawhi isn't on the court, and Harden doesn't request a trade, well, it's very likely he just leaves in free agency anyway and opts out of his contract. So if you're Los Angeles, why wouldn't you think about trading him, getting some assets back, especially if you are a struggling ball club? The third candidate on my list is Austin Reaves, and this one should come as no surprise, in my opinion, because Reaves has been very open about wanting to test the open market in NBA free agency. He turned down an extension not only last year, but I'm pretty sure he said this season as well. And he has been reported, at least some reports out there, could be getting a contract in free agency worth up to $40 million per season. That's a pretty hefty bag for Austin Reaves, but it's a guy that I could see some teams with cap space, a team like the Brooklyn Nets, maybe a Washington Wizards, if they want to add a player to be their lead ball handler and backcourt creator, could be going in on Reaves. And if you're Los Angeles, do you really have the financial flexibility to do that with Luka Doncic, with LeBron James? I know LeBron may retire, but is Reaves that co-star that you're going to spend $40+ million on per season for Luka? I don't know if that's the best allocation of resources. More coming up here in a second, but this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The basketball season is almost here, but football season rages on, and with Prize Picks, you can get paid for making the right decisions, and it is good to be right on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. So when the season comes, if you want to take Steph Curry more than points, more than threes, more than assists, you can put them all in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. You could also follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click, whether it's a friend, celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like. Hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. We still got to wait for basketball season to be here, but I got a football entry in for this weekend. More than Chuba Hubbard, 54.5 rushing yards, more than Jalen Waddle touchdowns, and I'm pairing that up with more than Cam Scatterboom, 64.5 rushing yards. Join me and download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Reaves had a career year last season in Los Angeles, partially because he was the lead ball handler and creator for most of the season until Luka Doncic came into town. But he still had a good season outside of that, right? Shot extremely efficient from the field, and he's been an efficient offensive scorer in his entire career for the Lakers, shooting consistently about 46%, and over the last 3 seasons, better than 36, 37% from beyond the arc. And he's improving every year. And you've seen some big-time playoff minutes from Reaves as well in the past. But my question is this, and it goes back to our point just before we talked about Prize Picks. He is going to test the open market in all likelihood. And if you are the Lakers and you are trying to capitalize on a win-now moment when you still have LeBron and Luka as a duo, which is without a question still a top 5 duo in the NBA, wouldn't you want to sell high on Austin Reaves to get a massive boost type of player at the trade deadline? Like, I don't know who that player is, but there could be a star that comes available that fits them and could get you over the top. Or if you do not achieve the goals you want, like say Luka gets hurt, say LeBron gets hurt, something like that, and they're ultimately a play-in team, and there's no chance of them winning the title. Well, if Reaves is going to just leave and test the open market anyway, wouldn't you want to trade him for assets potentially? Getting young players in draft capital in return? To me, is it the most likely thing? No, but I do think Austin Reaves is one of the top NBA trade candidates because it seems very likely he is going to be on the free agent market. And if the Lakers want to just recoup assets or improve their roster before losing Reaves for potentially nothing, they may do that in February at the trade deadline. And we'll have you covered with daily content here, whether it's NBA, NFL, or college football. Plus, when we get to the trade deadline, we will be live on the channel breaking it all down as well. So hit that sub button. Join us here at Chat Sports. Another trade candidate is Andrew Wiggins. And Wiggins isn't in the same tier of players as the previous three, but he might be the most likely trade candidate on this list of players we're talking about today. Because Miami had trade conversations with the aforementioned Lakers this offseason. Now, nothing ever materialized because Miami wanted to connect a first-round pick and expirings, and the Lakers weren't willing to do that. But if he struggles this season, or Miami struggles, it's likely they will try to trade him. Why? Because they want to get financial flexibility for the future, and Wiggins has a $30.1 million player option next season that Miami probably does not want on their books. Wiggins was very good for the Heat after the Jimmy Butler trade last season when he was on the court. The issue for Miami, he played in just 17 of 33 regular season games, and then in the postseason against the Cavs, when they got swept in embarrassing fashion, he was an absolute no-show and a liability on the offensive end. There is no guarantee that Wiggins is on this Heat roster past the trade deadline, and if they are a struggling play-in team again and not in the top six, you could possibly see Andrew Wiggins get traded. You could also see Norman Powell get traded, but I think Wiggins might be more likely. Final player we're talking about today, Anfernee Simons, the guard on the Celtics, who was the returning player in that Jrue Holiday trade where the Celtics cut some salary. I talked about Wiggins being the most likely. Simons is right up there, though, because Boston will try to trade him. It was actually reported that they tried to reroute him this offseason as well after just acquiring him and trading him again before he even plays for the Celtics. Simons is a player that you would not anticipate Joe Mazzulla liking because he is not a good defender and he is a volume scorer, not an efficient one. But when Jason Tatum's out, you trade Jrue Holiday, Porzingis gets traded as well. You need a player to kind of help soak up an offensive load, and that is what Simons will do in tandem with Derek White in the backcourt, as well as Jaylen Brown being there. Should be a down year for Boston, and you could see Simons get traded, especially since he has an expiring $20 million contract as well. But let me know your thoughts before we round out today's show. Name the top NBA trade candidate for you right now. Mine is probably Anfernee Simons. I would say that out of the five we talked about, I think he does get traded more than anyone else. But I do want people to keep an eye on Austin Reaves and Trae Young. Because if those two teams struggle, why would they hold on to the players, especially if they have no plan in extending Trae Young and Reaves has no plan in signing an extension with the Lakers prior to hitting free agency? Seems like a proactive move by both franchises to potentially trade them for multiple draft picks and young talent at the deadline. But I'll also give you one bonus name, LaMelo Ball in Charlotte. I don't think it happens, but Ball has not been able to stay on the floor. He actually has played less games than Zion Williamson over the last 4 seasons. Pretty telling if you are on a list of games played lower than Zion. Plus, that team might just be looking for a complete different look. They drafted Con Kneppel. They have Brandon Miller. They may try to just kind of lean into them rather than LaMelo, but you never know. We'll have more on the NBA on my Twitter. @Nick_Roloff is my handle. Go give me a follow right now if you want more NBA content, and I'll see you with another NBA video soon.